Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about the interview question that I was asked last week. From the given array of integers, find the distance between two closest elements. For example, in here we have two examples to understand the task. In first array, we have 1, 5, 10, and 2. In this, in this case, if you look at it, the numbers, the closest two element is 1 and 2. So the distance between 1 and 2 is 1. Therefore, our method should return 1. In the second example, we have the larger amount of numbers, 1, 5, 9, 14, 20, and 12. In this method, we should return 2 because the closest two elements from this array are 12 and 14. And the distance between these two numbers is 2. Therefore, I should return 2 in my method. So first of all, in this kind of questions, when I get asked in the interview, I create my method static because mainly they ask us to solve the questions, then run them in the main method. So to make my life easier, I make the method static so I can call them in the main method without a problem. So therefore, I'm going to create my method. I'm going to give the access modifier public. So you can give private if you are going to use in the same class. We are going to use in all the classes. You can make it public. So this is kind of default. I'll start with the public and I'll make it static. My return type should be integer because I will return the closest distance, right? And integer, and I will give my method a name, and I will give closest distance. This method will take array of integers, integer numbers, we could say, and I will provide curly braces. And now I got a good start on my method. The next, I have to understand how can I solve this question. So first of all, if you look at these numbers, if I sort them, right? If I sort them, they will look better. So if I sort them, my method will look 1, right? 5, 9, 12, 14, and 20. So in this case, I can just compare the number with the next number because they would be the closest since they are sorted. So I can check the distance between first element and the second element, and I can store them somewhere. And I can check the distance between second and the third one. If the distance between second element and third element is smaller than the first distance I found, I have to change the first distance I found because now the current distance I found is smaller. So I have to do this till the end of the loop. I'm going to start first the variable that I'm going to return, the distance. So in the beginning, I don't know, I have to assume. But if I say in the beginning the distance is 0, in the array, maybe the smallest distance is 1. So I have to avoid these situations. So I have to give maximum value possible. We can find that maximum value from the wrapper class of integer as an instance variable. So I can say integer wrapper class dot maximum value. So this is the maximum value we can give in the integer. So the distance in the array cannot be bigger than this. So then this is a good starting point. I will create my for loop to check the distance between first element and second, second and third, third and fourth. For that, I will do this one. I will create my regular for I loop, right? The I starts from 0 as it is in next number, and then it has to be smaller than nums.length, and I will increase during the loop. After that, I have to check which numbers I have to compare. So if I say nums I, okay, how can I find the distance with the other element, right? I have to check them with the next one. How I do that? I can use, so if this is the current number, I have to check distance between I plus 1, right? This is the next element. How can I do that? I can say integer current distance between the elements are nums I plus 1. Since we have to sort the element as well, sort the arrays. So how do we do that? We can just use the arrays class, arrays.sort, and we will give the numbers. Okay, after we sort it, now we know that elements are in ascending order, which means I plus 1 will be bigger than or equal to nums I. That is for sure, because nums I plus 1 is the next element. After I did this one, this is the current distance, and this is the smallest distance is possible, right? Now I have to check if the current distance I find is smaller than this distance, then I have to make the change, right? How can I do that? I can use the math class from the Java. I can say math. So the distance, the minimum distance should be math dot minimum. Find me the minimum. If current distance is minimum, it will assign to the distance variable, or if distance is smaller, it will stay the same. After that, if I ask a question here, what would be the smallest distance possible between two numbers? The answer is easy. They can be the same. So the smallest distance possible is 0. So therefore, I will add another condition to fasten up this situation for the certain array. And I will say if distance at any point equals 0, break the loop. As you can see, it adds a couple lines of code and it might not look that great. Where else can I add this condition? I can add it to my for loop. Here, when I say I smaller than nums.len, I can add a simple AND condition and say continue this loop if the distance is not 0. Because if distance is 0, I should just return the distance. Now here, let's look at this for loop again. We will see one mistake. What is it? In the for loop or in any loop, we have to make sure the index number we are using must be smaller than the length. It is same for list. It is same for string. It is same for arrays. It is same for everything you use index in Java. Therefore, what is the biggest index number I am using in this loop? It is the I plus 1, right? I plus 1 is always bigger than the I, and this is the biggest possible index I'm using. Therefore, the index number I am using has to be smaller than the length. Therefore, I will say I plus 1 smaller than the nums.length. After we do this one, now at this point, we will explain line by line what are we doing. And after we find the result, after we created this method, they will ask us to test it. So for that, I'm going to create quickly a main method. If you are new to this, to be able to create fast main method, we can use two ways, specifically for IntelliJ IDE. PSVM, which will create the main method, or we can use just the main word, and then it will create a main method as well. Write the shortcut, enter it, it will create it for you. But mostly in interviews, they will not allow you to use IDE. In those cases, you can just write public static void main string arguments. Now, after this, I will test it. So I have to create a one array. Let's create this one. I can say integer numbers equals new integer array, and I will provide the elements here. And my elements are this one, and I have to remove these brackets. And here is my elements. So if I provide this array to my number, it should print 2. So let's see what my method will print. I will do integer closest distance in array. You can write a shorter names. I'm just using a more clear way. And closest distance in this array is, I can call the method closest distance, and I can give the numbers as a parameter. Now I can say system out println, and I have to print out the closest distance I find from this array using my method. Let's run it. As you can see, we find the 2. And this is the way that we solve it. There is always a multiple ways to solve the questions in Java. Never be afraid of solving in different ways and explaining your thought process. Mostly you'll be welcomed. And that's all for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.